Hello wonderful human beings, Sheldon Evans here, and in this video we're going to be making stuff levitate. I've made a video like this before where I've shown you how to make people float, but what happens if you want to make an everyday object levitate? Maybe you just want to perform a little street magic in your photos. Well, I don't want to waste any more of your time, let's jump right into it. Alright, so as I was explaining, I've shown you how to make people levitate. And the way we did that was essentially by using layer masks, or creating two separate layers, punching a hole through that first layer so that you can see the background layer, and essentially making the props or whatever's holding up your subject invisible. So for example, in this scene that I'm in, I would be the front plate. I'm the foreground, and the background behind me would be the back plate. Now in order for you to see what's going on in the background, you need to punch a hole in the front plate so that you can see what's going on in the background, just like this. So I almost looked like a floating head for a second. That is because I made my body disappear and it looked as if nothing was holding my head up. But what happens if you don't have time to shoot a backplate in the scene that you're in? Maybe you're traveling, maybe you're running around and you don't really have time to do that. Well, we're gonna have to use that dreaded term, fix it in Photoshop, which I actually think is becoming more and more acceptable these days. Photoshop is such a powerful tool and we shouldn't deny it. We should use it in our work. It's there for us and we should take advantage of it. So in today's tutorial, we're gonna be using the Content Aware Fill tool. And thanks to a brand new update Adobe just released, it makes it easier than ever. So first we have to find something that we want to levitate. I think I'm going to use this mug that I found in this apartment. Then all you have to do is you have to get some string and attach it to the object that you want to make float. Then find somewhere to hang your object. Get up high and attach your object to whatever it is that you're hanging it from. Lower it down to a level that you're happy with, and there you go. You have a levitating mug. Now obviously this doesn't look very good at all because we need to make that string disappear. And that's where Photoshop comes into play. Now all you have to do is compose your scene, set up your camera either with a self timer or connect it to your phone so that you can get a remote view of what you're taking a photo of, and capture a few photos until you're happy with what you've got. Maybe you're using one hand, or maybe you're using both, and using the power of jazz hands to make that cup levitate. Whatever it is, it's up to you. The composition and layout of the photo is obviously up to your creative genius. But before we jump into the computer and I'll show you how to do that, we've got to thank today's sponsor, which is of course, Squarespace. Now you guys obviously know what Squarespace is by now, but if you don't, let me introduce you to the best website design platform. You can literally create and set up a website in minutes with Squarespace. Their customer service is outstanding and it's 24/7. So if you wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning and you've got this great business idea that you want to start selling lampshades online, you can call up Squarespace and they'll show you how to do it, because you can now sell stuff on your website through Squarespace. They make it super easy to set up the website. You can literally set it up in minutes and start selling your lampshades. So if you want to try Squarespace out, you can start a free trial at squarespace.com/Sheldon, and if you visit that link, you can get 10% off of your first website and domain. So if you want to set up your own online store, try out Squarespace. But more on that later because we have to jump right back into today's tutorial. Okay, so once you've captured your photos and you're happy with the way they're looking, we're going to import them into Lightroom and start doing some edits before we take it into Photoshop. So as you can see here, I've imported a ton of these photos that we've just shot into Lightroom. Now to do this, all you have to do is hit this little import button, find the photos on your computer and hit import. Now obviously I've already done that, so we're going to go through them and find which photo is best and the one that we want to edit. So when you're flipping through your photos, you can use the keys on your keyboard or you can simply click on them, and we're going to make select by either rating them 1 to 5 stars by pressing 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 on your keyboard, and you can rate your photos that way, or you could simply press P on your keyboard, which will flag this photo as a pick. To remove the flag, you can hit U, or you can hit X to discard the photo altogether. So I'm going to mark this photo as P because I quite like the way this one looks. I like the angle of the cup. Let's go to the next photo. Not really the fan of that one, not that one. That one's quite nice because I like the angle of the cup as well, so I'm going to hit P on my keyboard as well to flag it as a pick. Keep going. Oh, that's quite interesting with the way my hands are looking, so let's hit P on that one as well. Keep scrolling through the photos. Okay, I don't really like the way those look at all. Now, how do we select just our photos? Well, we're going to head over here to Filters, click on Flagged, or Rated if you use the 1 to 5 star method. So I'm going to hit on Flagged, and as you can see, there's my 3 photos that I've just selected. Now before we take it into Photoshop, I'm going to do a few color adjustments right in Lightroom because we're working with the raw file, so we have the best quality photo right now. So we're going to head on over to the Develop module in Lightroom by tapping Develop in the top right. Then we're going to go over to the right panel over here to adjust our photo. Now I want to make it slightly brighter. I want to bring up the shadows a little bit because I am wearing all black and there's some shadow in the background. The white balance is perfectly fine, so I'm going to leave that where it is, and then I'm going to bump up the clarity slightly. So as you can see, if you bring up the clarity, it really adds a punch to the photo. So I'm going to add the clarity at around the 35 mark. I quite like the way that looks. Now you can hit the backslash key on your keyboard to see a before and after of what you've just done. So to edit in Photoshop, all we have to do is right click on our photo, click on edit in, and then edit in Adobe Photoshop. Now this will bring our photo up in Photoshop, as you can see here. Now we're going to remove the string so that it actually looks like this cup is levitating. Now to do this, all we have to do is zoom in a little bit so I can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to use the rectangle marquee tool to make a selection of the string. So I'm going to zoom in, try and select as much of the string as possible and as little of the background as possible, because we are going to be using the content aware tool here. So I'm going to make a selection right down to the edge of the cup there. And then all we have to do is hit Shift Delete on our keyboard. It'll bring up the full tab, select content aware, and then click OK. Give it a few seconds and bam. As you can see, that did a pretty good job. But now how do we remove the rest of the string on our mug over here? Well, if we zoom in and we use the exact same tool that we just used, let's make a selection around the string. I'm going to use this lasso tool over here. If I make a selection around the string so that I can remove it, and I hit Shift Delete again, and I fill it with content aware, as you can see, it looks terrible. Like, it has no idea what is going on. And the reason this is happening is because Photoshop doesn't know what part of the photo is a mug and what part of the photo is a background. Photoshop does have some software and intelligence built into it, but it's not a person, it's not a human computer. So it doesn't know what object in the photo is what. So it's sampling from all around the image, and you can see it's using pieces of my shirt in the mug. So how do we fix this? Well, Photoshop's released a new update to the Content Aware Fill tool so that we can change this and fix it amazingly well. So I'm going to go back in my history over here, and I'm going to make a selection again. And I'm going to head on over to the clone stamp tool right over here just to clean up the edge of the photo here and remove some of the string that we have here. So I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger. I'm going to use Option and click to sample the black area over here, and I'm going to simply paint along the edge of the mug like that, just to bring some shape back into the handle. Now I'm going to remove the string. So let's head on over back to our lasso tool, select the string as best we can, and we're going to go over to Edit, Content Aware Fill. Now you'll see something very different here. We've got this green selection all around the image. Now what this is doing is it's notifying us exactly where on the image that Photoshop is sampling from. So we don't want to sample from this black area here because obviously the handle of the mug doesn't contain that color at all. As you can see here, selected with the minus selection in the top left. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger and start erasing where this photo is sampling from, so that we only sample from the handle of the mug. So I'm going to keep doing this and remove the majority of it as I can, and there we go. Now as you can see, it's already looking better here in our preview window, but it's not perfect. So there's a few things that we have to do to modify this. We're going to go over to our full settings and choose color adaptation, and we're going to change that to high. This way Photoshop will try even harder to match the color as best as it can. Then we're going to go over to rotation adaptation and change that to full as well. Now as you can see, it's doing a little bit better of a job as well, but it's adding a slight black area over there. Now the reason this is happening is because Photoshop's sampling from the edge of the mug right here, as you can see. So we're going to minimize this even further and remove some of this dark area so that it's not sampling from it. Then we're going to go to the Add Selection tool, make it slightly smaller, and start painting in over here so that we select more of the mug. Now as you can see, it's doing a really good job so far at removing that and fixing the mug. So we're going to click OK and Command D to deselect, and as you can see, it's done a pretty good job, but it's not absolutely perfect, purely because this part of the photo is in the background, so it's slightly blurred out. Now how do you fix this? Well, we've got two separate layers here, so we're going to select them and we're going to hit Command E to merge them into one layer. Now we're going to use our liquefy tool to blend it back together. So we're going to go to Filter, Liquefy. We're going to select the top tool over here, and we're going to zoom into our photo and re-sculpt this handle. Now all you have to do is change the size of your brush, keep the density around 50, and we're going to simply push and sculpt the handle back to life, just like that. Go ahead and click OK. It looks really, really good now. There's some sharp edges here, and to fix that, all we have to do is click the Clone Stamp tool again, sample, use a slightly softer brush, you can make it a little bit bigger as well, sample and paint. And there we go, we've added our blur back into the handle. Now if we zoom out, we're levitating a cup. Just like that, magic, super easy and simple. Now you can add a few additional adjustments to this if you'd like. Maybe you want to add some color, maybe you want to add a lens flare, whatever it is, you can do that. Again, it's up to your own creative genius as to what you want to do. So I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to create a color balance layer. I'm going to add some blue to the shadows, just like that. And I'm going to add some yellows to the highlights. Now you can hide or show your layer by clicking that to see the color adjustment you've made. And I quite like the way that looks. I'm going to click on this button again and add a brightness and contrast layer. Bump up that brightness just slightly to add a little bit more of a punch to the photograph. You can drop the contrast or increase it. I'm going to drop it slightly just so that I can get more detail back in those shadows. And then finally, I'm going to create a new layer. Use the brush tool, make it quite big. I'm going to use the white color that I have selected here, and I'm simply going to drop the flow down to around 25% and brush in my photo like that. Now you can see I've added an artificial lens flare, which looks disgusting at the moment, but we're going to fix that. So we're going to drop the opacity of our layer slightly. We're going to create a layer mask by clicking this button. We're going to go over to our brush tool again, and we can hit X on our keyboard, or we can click this little button here to switch between our back and foreground color. We're going to switch to black and we can paint away some of this lens flare. Then we're going to change our blending mode to soft light, and again I can bring my opacity up slightly depending on what you want it to look like. It looks like a mug from outer space. And that's just about it, except there's one thing that you may or may not have noticed that is in the background of this photo, and that is the reflection in the fridge behind me. Now we need to remove the string from that reflection or else our entire effect is ruined. So to do this, we're going to go back to our background layer, hit that selection tool again, make a selection, hit Shift Backspace, click OK, and bam, our mug is floating in the reflection as well. Now hit Command S on your keyboard to save it, and you can hit File, Export, Export As, and you can hit export and export your photo as a JPEG and post it all around the internet, showing off your mad new magic skills. And it's really as simple as that. I really hope you guys liked this tutorial. If you did like the tutorial, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this in the future. And as always, I shall see you in the next video. Cheers.